Wow. Okay, so this is different this time.
Yeah.
You sent us something pretty intense.
Okay.
I mean, this is just a series of like really intense snapshots, almost like you're looking into a dream or something from the short film called O.C.D. FT Stephen Og by Luca Pizzoleo.
Wait.
And it's on YouTube.
Yep.
So,
you know what's really cool about this film is that it jumps around a lot.
Right.
You know, you get a bit of dialogue here and a quick interaction there, and then just like these intense internal moments.
Yeah, it's really fragmented.
Very fragmented.
Yeah. So our mission is, should you choose to accept it?
I think we have to.
I think we do too.
Yeah.
Is to really try to understand how OCD is being shown in this story.
Right.
And, you know, what we can learn from how the filmmaker decided to show it.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, this is something we really need to handle carefully.
Absolutely.
You know, with real sensitivity.
Sure.
So from what we see in these excerpts, we have Owen, and he seems to be dealing with OCD pretty severely. And then there's Anna, who seems to be there to support him.
Yeah.
And maybe even help him, like, work through some of his triggers.
Yeah, it looks like some sort of exposure therapy going on.
And then there's this really unsettling character called the crazy guy.
Oh, yeah.
Who kind of just injects this whole other level of like tension and creepiness into everything. Right away, we see some things that really jump out at you.
Yeah, like what?
Like the counting 1, 2, 3 that comes up over and over.
Yes.
There's this focus on having the shelves be straight. And then there's this almost mythical string of doom that we hear about.
Yes.
And then that super intense scene with the freezer and the Rocky Road ice cream.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, so let's get into this. How does Owen's OCD seem to be showing up in these moments?
Well, I think we can see a few really clear signs.
Sure.
You know, the counting the 1, 2, 3, that feels like something he has to do, you know, like a ritual, a compulsion.
Yeah.
And then when Anna says, you do not have to fix anybody's shelves, that suggests he has this need for things to be perfect in his environment. He needs everything to be just so.
Right.
You know, and then the string of doom, I mean, what a powerful image, right?
Yeah.
It's something he's obviously fixated on, even though it seems to have all these negative associations for him.
Yeah.
You know, it's an example of how any object can basically become something that people with OCD latch onto.
It is interesting how important that string seems to be to him. I mean, Anna even celebrates him getting rid of it, and then he freaks out, like begging her not to throw it away.
Right.
It shows just how much anxiety can get attached to things or routines that wouldn't seem that big of a deal to most people.
Yeah.
And it seems like Anna is trying to get him to deal with these compulsions head on.
It does seem that way.
Like she's trying to help him manage it.
Yeah, she's encouraging him. She's reminding him that he let go of the string of doom beforehand. And they're using the dinner with her parents as a way to motivate him to keep facing his fears.
Yeah.
It seems like you're working together, you know, to make
Yeah.
these triggers not control him so much.
Right.
What Anna seems to be doing is called exposure therapy. And that basically means that you slowly introduce the things that make someone anxious
Right.
in a safe way to try to make them less scary over time.
Yeah.
It's a common technique.
Okay, so then there's that crazy scene in the freezer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was intense.
Uh-huh.
He was worried about getting frostbite just from touching the ice cream.
Wow.
And then when he saw that the Rocky Road was in the vanilla section,
Right.
that really set him off.
What's interesting here is that something so small,
Yeah.
like an ice cream flavor being in the wrong spot,
Right.
can cause such a big reaction. And then we hear these voices whispering, which I think are probably supposed to represent what we call intrusive thoughts.
Okay.
You know, those thoughts that just pop into your head that you don't want.
Right.
And that can be really upsetting.
Yeah.
Often people with OCD don't struggle with just having those thoughts. It's more about how they react to them.
Right.
And when Anna asks him to say the thought out loud, that's a technique that therapists use sometimes.
Yeah.
The idea is that saying it makes it seem less powerful and less real.
Yeah.
Sort of takes away its power.
But he really doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He says he doesn't want to speak it into existence.
Right.
And that really shows how real these thoughts feel to him. Like they could actually happen if he says them out loud.
Exactly.
So we're starting to see how Owen is struggling, and then this crazy guy shows up.
Yeah.
And it feels like the whole story changes.
It's a big shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That part in the store is so uncomfortable.
It is.
The way the crazy guy acts, accusing Owen of being a coward, talking
yeah.
about brain cancer.
Yeah.
It's like he's trying to upset Owen on purpose.
It seems that way.
And we see how it affects Owen physically.
Yeah.
He starts hyperventilating. He gets a nosebleed.
Yeah.
It really shows how emotional stress can affect you physically.
Yeah, it can.
What's important here is that it shows how someone's anxieties can start to feel like they're coming from outside of themselves, like they're being attacked or persecuted.
It can really blur the lines between what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we hear that news report about the gas leak in the house behind them.
Oh, yeah.
This is where it gets really interesting because you start to wonder what's real and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
Is this really happening, or is this just how Owen sees the world because of his anxiety?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
It's not clear.
The news report seems to confirm that there's danger.
Yeah.
Which Owen seems to already know about.
Uh-huh.
But then Anna's like, oh, it's just the news crew. They're always out here.
Right.
So you start to think maybe it's not that big of a deal.
Uh-huh.
And then there's that photo.
Oh, yeah.
Owen says, I never wore that. And Anna just dismisses it like, oh, the internet is full of fake stuff these days.
Yeah.
So again, we're not sure what to believe.
Right.
Is it just fake, or is it a sign that Owen's perception of reality is messed up?
It could be either one.
Yeah.
Or even both.
Right.
You know, for Owen, it probably feels like proof that something's wrong.
Yeah.
Like he's not in control.
Uh-huh.
And Anna trying to reassure him might actually make him feel worse.
Yeah.
Especially because of his OCD.
Right.
It's like she's not taking his fears seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tension really builds after this.
It does.
Owen gets more and more desperate trying to warn people about the gas leak.
Yeah.
But Anna just thinks it's his anxiety.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to mess up the progress they've made with the therapy.
It seems like she's so focused on the therapy that she's not seeing how much he's struggling.
Yeah.
You know?
And then the candles become a big problem.
Yeah. It feels like that was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Owen clearly thinks they're dangerous. Steak, probably because of the gas leak.
Right.
Whether that's real or not.
Exactly.
But Anna is still focused on the exposure therapy.
Yeah.
So she doesn't really understand how upset she is.
Right.
And then boom, the explosion.
Yeah, so sudden.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then that static.
Yeah.
It's really jarring.
It throws you off.
And then the crazy guy comes back.
Right.
And now it feels like he's a much bigger part of the story.
Yeah, it's interesting what he says after the explosion.
Yeah.
Like when he blames Owen for it.
Mm-hmm.
He says, see what you did.
Right.
You were too chicken to do your job.
Yeah.
It's like he's saying that Owen could have prevented this.
Right.
If he had just done what he was supposed to do.
And he seems to know about Owen's compulsions.
Yeah.
He talks about Owen's God-given duty to make the world right.
It's like he's become this voice for all of Owen's fears and anxieties.
Yeah.
And remember how Owen was so focused on order?
Uh-huh.
Now this guy's demanding a specific kind of order to prevent chaos.
Right. Even though it's all twisted?
It's like he's the physical embodiment of Owen's anxieties.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he talks about this top secret information.
Yeah.
And he says that Owen's compulsions actually matter in the real world.
Uh-huh.
Like he's the only one who can stop bad things from happening.
Right.
That's a big change in how we understand the story.
Yeah, it is.
He's basically saying that Owen's compulsions aren't just irrational urges.
Uh-huh.
They're necessary to prevent disaster.
Right.
And then he tells Owen to do something specific.
Yeah.
With the vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
Which connects back to that scene in the freezer.
Right.
It's like he's giving Owen's anxieties a purpose.
Yeah.
A reason.
So Owen believes him and spills chocolate bars.
Yeah.
And then his leg starts hurting.
Right.
What do you think that means?
Well, it could be a physical sign of how stressed he is.
Yeah.
You know, his anxiety is so bad that it's causing him physical pain.
Right.
Or maybe in the story it means that there's a price to pay for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, like his body is being punished for taking on this responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not clear.
That last scene with the crazy guy is so unsettling.
Yes, it is.
Because it doesn't feel like anything is resolved.
Yeah.
He tells Owen, you did what you should have done before.
Uh-huh.
But then he says you fucked up.
Right.
It's like Owen can't win.
No matter what he does, it's not enough.
Right.
It's like the rules keep changing.
Yeah.
And that's often how it feels with OCD.
Right.
It's not logical.
And then out of nowhere, we see this robbery scene.
Oh, yeah.
It feels completely random.
It does.
Like it doesn't belong.
Why do you think they put that in there?
I don't know. It's so jarring.
Yeah.
Maybe it's supposed to show how afraid Owen is of chaos.
Right.
You know, like things happening that he can't control.
Okay.
And he's there at the store when it happens. So maybe it's like he's connected to it somehow.
Yeah.
Like maybe if he wasn't so focused on his own problems, he could have prevented it. Or maybe it's just showing us that bad things happen.
Yeah.
randomly.
It's really disturbing.
Yeah, it is.
And then the film goes back to some of those earlier scenes with Anna.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we've seen the explosion and heard what the crazy guy has to say,
right?
Those scenes feel different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when she says, resist the urges.
Uh-huh.
Or walking away now.
It means something different now.
It does.
Yeah.
Like maybe she didn't realize how serious Owen's OCD really was.
Right. Yeah.
And then those last scenes in the convenience store, they seem so normal.
Yeah.
But you can still hear the voices whispering in Owen's head.
Right.
And there are sirens in the background. It's like a reminder that things are not okay.
It's like the chaos is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that music at the end.
And the whooshing sound.
It's like they just leave you hanging.
Yeah, with this feeling of unease.
It's really effective.
I think so too.
So what does this all mean? Well, I think it shows how hard it is to show mental health on screen. Is this a literal story about someone whose compulsions are preventing a disaster?
Right.
Or is it more about the internal struggles that people with OCD face?
Yeah.
Those battles that feel so intense and important.
Right.
Or maybe it's about guilt and responsibility.
Yeah.
And how our own fears can change how we see the world.
That's a good point.
It's not clear.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes you think.
It really shows what it's like to live with OCD.
It does.
The way it can consume you.
Yeah.
And how high the stakes can feel. It's like art can give us a glimpse into someone else's mind.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things art does best.
Yeah.
It shows us different perspectives.
Right.
It helps us understand things that we might not otherwise.
I think this film definitely does that.
Yeah, it does.
And it reminds us that mental health is something we need to talk about.
Yeah.
And be sensitive to. So what do you think was really going on in this film?
Yeah. What do you think, listener?
Yeah, what do you think?
Was a crazy guy real?
Yeah.
Was he just in Owen's head? Or was he something else entirely?
And what does that tell us about how we see and talk about mental health?
I think that's a really good question.
Yeah, it is.
And something to think about.
We didn't give you all the answers today.
No, we didn't.
But we hope we gave you some things to think about.
Definitely.
Maybe watch the whole short film.
Yeah.
And decide for yourself.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I might do that myself.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, this was a good one.
It was intense, but it was good.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time.
See ya.